You're watching Legal Focus on TVC News. Let's meet our advocate for the week. He is Mr. Oluwemimo Ogunde, a senior advocate of Nigeria. Thank you very much for joining us on the program today.
Thank you for having me.
Mr. Ogunde, how did childhood prepare you for the heights you've attained in law?
My childhood didn't prepare me at all. I was a drummer throughout my childhood. It was when I was about to enter university, when I was in university, that my father suggested that I'll be a good lawyer. I don't know what he saw, so I decided to adhere to his advice by switching from psychology to read law in 1979.
Fantastic. And what about the legal influences that helped shape your mind then?
That started after I qualified as a lawyer. And I believe that the strongest influence was my principal, Chief Gani Fawemi. I saw in him diligence, honesty, transparency. I saw in him excellence. And I was attracted to those virtues. And from that time, I wanted to be as hardworking as he was. And so I could say that that was my greatest influence that actually was perpetuating. There were other side influences, which of course I got from listening to lawyers in court. I think the standout side influences were late Abayomi Shogbeson, senior advocate of Nigeria. I got a lot seeing him, and also Chief Jioke Ajayi SAN.
Let's get to know about that turning point case you handled that shaped your career.
That started again from Chief Gani Fawemi's influence. We started legal practice in a very unusual way, in a very unique way, because we didn't start with going to court. He had a project which he called Digest of the Supreme Court Cases. And he wanted to actually get all the judgments of the Supreme Court from 1956 to 1984, whether reported or unreported, in a digest form. What that means is that you could look at the case, see the important aspects of the judgment already quoted out, and the important principles set out. So you look at it, you see the principles, you see the quotations, and then you can grasp the case immediately.
That didn't exist at the time.
It did not exist at that time. The one that existed, which was a digest, it was a very small volume, which was done by the late Chief Olisa Chukura SAN. But we are now talking about the digest of all judgments of the Supreme Court from 1956 to 1984. It was the first of its kind. So as young lawyers, he recruited us to actually do that project. And that gave me and my three colleagues, Tayo Yetibo, SAN, Justice Akemi, and Mr. Abudu. We had another chap, again, Professor Kwashiga, a Ghanaian. So 5 of us actually worked on that project. And so what that meant is that between August 1984 and December 1984, we had read all the judgments of the Supreme Court, reported and unreported, from 1956 to 1984. If you started legal practice that way, there is no way by which it will not positively influence you. So what that meant was that Chief Gani trusted us by reason of the knowledge we had acquired over such a short time to handle on our own cases from High Court to Supreme Court.
And then, are there periods in your career, it's still on, I believe, that you would describe as highs and low moments?
Yeah, I've had that. The highs, of course, the beginning was the one I just described to you, which was the first 6 months of my career as a lawyer. Then thereafter, the next high that I can see was the time that I started to actually mature as a lawyer, when I was able to help indigent indigent clients, I was able to push aside my own financial needs. I saw that as a great high, because I look back now to my career, and what stands out there is that I have so many that I have helped, so many clients that I've helped silently, quietly, without making any noise. They know what I've done for them. And every time I recall that in my career, I feel very glad and fulfilled. The low, of course, I say this with with some sadness. The low has been the time when I had to resist clients wanting me to influence judges.
That's a reality.
Yeah, a reality. It was a condition that if you couldn't guarantee us that you would make a move to the judge, we're not going to leave a brief with you. So my insistence on not doing that resulted in many, and I say this to my sadness again, corporate clients leaving my firm. So at that time, I suffered because I didn't have money. I lost so many briefs, and things were very, very tight. But thereafter, things picked up again. I found those who could come to me without giving such undertaking.
Without you bending your
standards. Without having to make that undertaking, give that undertaking. And so I had to build my practice again. So that was the period between 1999, when I just started on my own, till round about 2001. Those were the toughest years of my practice.
You also served in public service, so to speak, in Ogun State, your state, as the Attorney General and Commissioner of Justice. How fulfilling was that period for you?
The 18 months that I spent there was very exciting. I, again, had an opportunity to see the advantage of public service. Quite contrary to what many people think, the public service for me still remains the greatest opportunity for anyone to touch many lives, because you had an opportunity to interact directly with members of the public, to listen to their complaints and their grievances, and to use the authority of states to be able to solve problems. You see, those who have their parcels of land illegally taken from them by other people, those who had their rights trampled upon by all sorts of illegal acts, one could, at that time, as chief law officer of the state, interfere directly, particularly through the departments that were under me, Office of the Public Defender, the Citizens' Rights. So they constituted good instruments in my hands with which I was able to help so many people.
Would you serve again if called upon?
Not as a commissioner, not as a minister. I think that the best way by which I can serve now is to, again, have an opportunity to do public good without necessarily occupying an office. When you occupy an office, you need some political wit to survive in that office. I think I lack it. What
do you have to say about the system, the legal system? Is there room for change?
There is. And I will touch on the one that appears to be the current point, which is corruption. What I see, quite frankly, about corruption in Nigeria is that whilst I agree that we should actually ensure that we do not encourage lawyers to influence judges, and we do not encourage judges also to seek that influence, there is an aspect that we are still ignoring, which is the aspect of culture. I want to tell you that even today, you still find that my refusal to get into a situation of having to offer gifts and bribes are still being resisted by even some of my colleagues. They believe it's wrong. They say that, look, in Nigeria, when you get a brief from a particular organization, you have to go there, and even if they don't ask for anything, you still have to go there, give them some money and so on. Particularly because they think that that's normal, that's cultural. And I want to tell you, if we have lawyers who become judges who have that mindset also, that is a cultural thing for me to deliver judgment, even if I have not asked for any money, to expect that that litigant or the lawyer should return with some gifts that I don't need to ask.
You don't have to ask.
What will happen is that if that judge has that mindset, another time when that counsel comes before him and he has not given any gift in respect of the previous judgment he got, he may decide to do something negative because of the mindset that he has. I think the mindset of culture is the aspect that we are still ignoring. Do we want to incorporate it into our political and economic system? It's been practiced in some other areas of the world. You find that in some organizations, you are not encouraged to give bribes, you are encouraged to give tips. These tips are gathered and at the end of the year shared amongst employees. So the employees are discouraged from asking for gifts directly on their own. There is an official way by which gifts can be properly gathered and shared amongst employees. Is it that, do we want to adopt that? Do we have to look for other ways by which we can deal with our cultural realities so that the war against corruption can be a fruitful war? As of today, I don't think it's fruitful, particularly because of the point that I've just raised, that there is a cultural aspect which is still hindering the war against corruption and to which proper attention has not been paid.
Mr. Oluwemimo Ogunde, we appreciate your time with us on Legal Focus. Thank you very much, sir.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
And that's been The Advocate for this week. Legal Focus continues in a moment. Stay with us.